So, hi Shahrbano, welcome to the virtual IMFF 2020, and thank you so much for joining us on this Q&A session of the orphanage. Just to let our viewers know that Shahrbano is in Denmark, and due to the time difference, she won't be able to join us live on Sunday, May 3rd, which is why we are doing this recorded Q&A session with her. We have a few members from Indie Meme joining us today. Firstly, congratulations, Shahrbano, on a fantastic film. I absolutely loved The Orphanage. I believe it's a sequel to your previous film, The Wolf and the Sheep. I haven't watched that film, but now after watching Orphanage, I definitely want to watch that film. It probably will give me a little different perspective. So my question, before I ask the question, I want to also say what I liked about your film is how you've shown the history of Afghanistan. I, as an outsider, don't know much about the country and what it has gone through. So for me, it was very, very interesting to know how you've showcased that in your film. So going on to my first question, can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a filmmaker?
Yes, but I just want to connect my answer to your feedback on the film, your feeling on the film, because you said you didn't know that much about the history of Afghanistan, and that was the case for me because I also didn't know that much about the history of Afghanistan. I mean, I was born in 1991, and my generation, we are not really connected to the past of Afghanistan, to the history of Afghanistan. And like some years ago, like almost 10, 11 years ago, when I met a friend of mine in a TV station in Kabul, where I worked there as a producer in different programs and shows, I met Anwar, my friend, who also played in the film. And he told me about his life story, that he wanted to write something, but he was not really sure about it. He thought that it's worth to write because it's very dramatic, and it's like his life story looks like a movie itself, and it has a lot of up and down and all this. I mean, he knew that he wanted to write something, but he was as if he didn't he was not brave enough to start it. So we start to talk about it. So he said to me, like, he told me bits of bits during some months, and then we made an agreement together that what if he writes every day, and the next day he emails them to me. So he wrote like 8 pages every day, and the next day he was emailing it to me. So within a year I was collecting 800 pages that Anwar wrote. And when I read that, I think that was, on that time, I must say that it was like 2000, I think it was 2009 or 2010. And on that time, I was not even a filmmaker. I even didn't make any short film. I mean, I was working on my short film, and I had a dream to be filmmaker or to make film, but nothing was really seriously. And when I read this diary of my friend, I think it was like reading it, it was like a turning point in my life on that moment, because on one point I could read his life story, like a personal story, like like being told from a child point of view, from all like all this war and stuff that he survived. But on the other hand, he was talking about the history of Afghanistan. He was talking about the last 40 years of dramas going on in history of Afghanistan, and that was something that I've never heard about it. I've never read it anywhere, and that was something that really, really catch me. And I saw it just immediately, that it's so visual. The way that he wrote, it's so visual, and it should be filmed. But it was so big; it was like 800 pages. So I said to Anwar that I want to make 5 feature film out of it, and I think he didn't believe me. He said, "Yeah, you're gonna do it," because on that time I was not filmmaker. So he said, like, "Yeah, whatever, you're gonna." But then later, when I made the first part, Wolf and Sheep, and Anwar was helping me in as the assistant director, I think then he believed that we're gonna complete these 5 films. And then later in 2019, when we finished The Orphanage, Anwar was also playing in the film as the role of the teacher. And then he also worked with me as an assistant director, and now he's writing with me for the 3rd part. So yeah.
Wonderful. That's awesome. So my second question was actually what inspired you to make The Orphanage? I think you kind of answered that question already for me, but that is amazing. So I am really looking forward to seeing your 3rd part now.
I have a quick follow-up to what you just said and what Shweta said, which is you said he sent you so many emails, and you had, so was this all published? Was his writing ever published, or is that something just you have?
No, actually, I'm so far I'm the only one who read the diary, but
Wow.
We are working on, because he wrote it in Dari, and then in the language of Afghanistan, one of the languages in Afghanistan, and he doesn't speak English that well, and we are looking for a translator who can translate it, but it's too big, and after many like rewriting, now we cut it down to 530 pages, but it's a huge work, and I think we both are dreaming to publish it one day, but maybe when we finish the 5 films, then we can publish also the diary from Anwar.
Wonderful.
How did you meet him? Like, can you tell us about your first meeting with him a little bit more?
We both work in the TV. I was working in the production department, and he was working in the news department. And we met each other during the coffee break around canteen for the lunchtime, for the afternoon. And actually, the 3rd part that now I'm working is about how we met, because later we also start to date each other, and now we are like love partner. And, yeah, and it's not that, and it's not only that. 2 years after, I discovered that Anwar is my cousin.
Oh wow!
Wow. Talk about destiny.
You see, that looks like complete Bollywood,
Bollywood.
It was meant to happen.
Yeah, that should be a movie for sure.
Yeah,
Wow.
so you should watch the 3rd film if we make it one day.
Yes, we will definitely wait for it. Now your life is like a Bollywood story. So I'll just ask a question about, Orphanage has so much influence, Bollywood influence. And how did that come about?
That came from the diary of Anwar, because in reality, he was selling cinema tickets in front of the cinema for Bollywood film. Yeah, and he was, because after he escaped from home, then he ended up in the street, and for 3 years he was kind of a street kid working in front of the cinema, and he watched a lot of Amitabh Bachchan movies, because Amitabh Bachchan was the hero on that time. In Kabul, he was like a super, still he is, but on that time it was like the golden time for him. And any film that came to India, the next day it came to Afghanistan, and the friendship between India and Afghanistan was very strong, and still it is. And Anwar, he watched, he sold a lot of tickets in black market, so he made a lot of money, but he also watched each movie 40 times or something. That's why he's fluent in Urdu now. only because he watched a lot of movies. So I got this idea from the diary, but I was completely opposite of Anwar. I was not big fan of Bollywood. I didn't like Bollywood. The only time that I think I watched Bollywood films, it was when I was in Iran, and I watched some Bollywood films from the national TV in Iran. But of course, they also censor a lot, so they took out all the songs and dance. So I didn't know that in Bollywood films they are hard dances. So I never, I didn't like the Hindi film on that time. And then Anwar kept talking about, you know, in all the time that we started our relationship, he was non-stop talking about the Indian actress and Indian actor and all the gossip in Indian cinema, and like you know, and he listened to all the like music from Hindi film from 50s, 60s, 70s. Like he likes Raj Kapoor and Amitabh Bachchan, and you know, like he knew everyone, and it didn't really interest me until I got a script residency in Germany, in Berlin, and Anwar also joined me. So we lived in Berlin for 3 months, and I was working on a draft of The Orphanage on that time, and I finished a draft that it looked final, but still it had a problem, because it was so, for me it was like a, because of the way that because of the cinema that I was trying to portray in The Orphanage, everything was so observational, and I didn't have anything from the main character. I didn't have anything that makes us to feel close with him, and I didn't want to describe his character like when everyone doing it in the film, because I thought like Afghan people, we are not very expressive people, you know. So if we are happy, or if we are sad, or if we are anything, we keep it here, and we never share it. And I think it gets more, maybe because of the last decades of war, that people, they are really do not show emotions or thoughts. They just adapt, because like, even if you look at politics or history, that, you know, the radical change happens one after another, that people that they wanted to survive, the only thing that they could do, they just need to adapt to that society. So I think they kill all the emotions and feelings and all this. And you know, now if, for example, now you come to Kabul and you make a conversation with someone, you look at his or her face, you don't know what he or she is thinking. You don't know, because the feeling, you know, it's like a security guard that doesn't let the feeling comes on the face. And then I knew this, so with respect to this, I didn't want to make a character description and where you know everything about the inner side of the character and all this. I didn't want to do that. But on the other hand, I was very amazed of how Afghan people, that they are not very expressive, they are fond of Bollywood, that they are exaggerating expressive. So,
no, that was a beautiful contrast, I think, that you created within the film. The Bollywood, the happiness, almost like an escape world for somebody who's keeping everything inside.
yes.
And you know, this is one of the most beautiful real life filmy story I've heard, like yours and Anwar's and everybody. I think it's just so beautiful. I just want to say I'm sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that when I was in Berlin in the residency, then I fell in love with Bollywood after watching 400 movies with and mostly from Amitabh Bachchan as well.
Well, he finally converted you.
Yes.
That's good.
All right, so Alka has one.
Okay, I have a quick, like, it ties in really with, since it's plays on the Bollywood theme. But when I saw The Orphanage, it reminded me in some way about a film which I saw as a kid, and I just googled it. It was in 1981 that the film was made, and it's a Hindi movie called Chashme Badur. Chashme Badur also kind of uses Hindi movies to kind of depict an alternate reality, you know, sort of like what they'd like it to be, or what they feel inside. And it's very interesting. And also those that alternate reality is has Bollywood influence, has the music from there, has the styling from there. So you know that's a scene from a particular Bollywood movie. So it was very interesting how that translated to The Orphanage. So I was just wondering if you had any influence from any of the cinema you watched, which kind of made you go down that route.
Well, for me it was very different. It was because, I mean, my approach to cinema is very different because I didn't watch any movie until I was 20. And the only films that I watched, it was the censored Bollywood film in Iranian TV, or like just some Iranian television series, or some movies, like commercial movies that they show in the governmental TV in Iran. And then when I was 11, because I was born in Iran as a refugee, because my family lived there for more than 40 years or something. And then in 2001, when I was 11 years, we moved back to Afghanistan. But in like a lot of refugees, they came back to Afghanistan, but they went to big cities. But my parents, they decided to go to very small village in central of Afghanistan. So we ended up in the remote village in the middle of nowhere in Bamiyan. And there was not even electricity. And of course, we didn't have TV, and I couldn't go to school. And like for 3-4 years, I couldn't do anything. I was just at home and like trying to persuade my father to get out of there. But my parents, because they went back home after 40 years, they were super excited that they completely forgot me and my siblings, you know. And my other siblings, I mean, they were at least graduated from high school, but I was just in the middle of it, and I didn't finish it. And I felt like I'm gonna die in this village all my life. I'm gonna live just there, you know. And when I was 18, I could manage to study in a boy high school some years later. And in 2008, I moved to Kabul. So and then I got my job in the TV. So I think, and then in 2010 actually, I got a residency in Cannes Film Festival. It was a Cine Fondation called Cine Fondation, and I made a short film before I really like a step in a real cinema theater. So I made my short film in 2009, and in 2010 I stepped in a real cinema theater in Paris. And since then I start to watch movies. So I mean, which I think it's like a it has a lot of good and a lot of bad. The bad is I don't know a lot of great filmmakers, and I have not watched a lot of great movies, or a lot of popular movies. I have not watched them yet. And the good is like because I wanted, I mean, the cinema was never like, oh, I want to be a filmmaker, or I want to be a storyteller. You know, cinema was the most irrelevant thing to my life. So I didn't choose that. But later, when I met Anwar and I read his diary, and then I travel around, and then I started my study in university, everything like made sense that I have to choose this path. And also later, when I found out that all the films about Afghanistan, they are not really true, and they are really like they have a big potential of cliche. And also not Afghanistan, but also all the countries that are involved in war, or they're poor, or they're, you know, developing countries. It's always like the internationals, they're always, or even national filmmakers, they're very interested to make films about those countries, but the result is just something like it's not good. It's not good enough, especially if you live there as a citizen, you know. And maybe it's good for the people that they don't know the culture or the country, and they just follow this English subtitle. But if you live there, then you are like I don't relate my life to this film at all. So I thought like, okay, it makes sense that I should make film that they are more true to Afghanistan that I live, not as a filmmaker, because theory, I mean, I'm not a filmmaker of theory world, but more as what I experienced and what I lived there, or what I observed, the most important. So now I completely forgot your question.
No, you did great. And you know, this was a very inspiring story that you told about yourself. You're an amazing role model for, I think, every young girl out there. You sound truly self-made. You really you know, achieved what you have on your own merits. So kudos to you for that. That's it. Thank you for sharing that story. That was great.
Yeah. All right, let's have Supriya go with her question next. Supriya, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi, SHAHRBANOO. Just absolutely mesmerized with your story, I really have to say. You know, the destiny part and the rest of what is unraveling for you. It's beautiful. So I was very curious to know, so I know a lot of pieces now looks like you know, it's fallen into place for you. You met Anwar and all of that. But what's one of the biggest challenges, like one big challenge that comes to your mind in this process of making this film?
Well, the big challenge for me is where to make the film, because I live in Afghanistan, but my producer is a European producer, and I'm working with European crew, and I get money from Europe to make film about Afghanistan, you know, to make like an Afghani film for a European audience. And sometimes the challenge, I mean, the big challenge is like, sometimes I get a statement from the founders that these are Afghan films. Why we should give money to make Afghan films? And it's just like very, I mean, I'm very grateful of Europe, of course, to give me opportunity and all this, but I think they are not realizing how big job work they're doing by this, because Afghanistan has not any cinema industry by itself, and that's why, because of all the cliches, because of the mafia in Afghanistan, because of the political situation, because of many things, Afghanistan needs independent voice, you know, and getting money from Europe or from any sources out of the country, it helps to make a story, like original story from Afghanistan, because you are not dependent on anyone inside Afghanistan. So you can be true to your own story. But this is only one side. The other side is the European crew is very, the life and the culture is very different. You know, I live in Afghanistan, and I'm dealing with explosion and suicide attack in everyday life. And then when I'm working with European people, I mean, they're very nice and all this, but I think they have not really experienced the meaning of danger, or you know what I mean. So when I'm working with European crew, like I get really angry when someone is going crazy just because the internet doesn't work, or like the small stuff like this, you know. And I think sometimes it's like a lot of miscommunication, because we just come from totally different world. But the biggest problem is where to shoot the film, because the European country, the European producer, she doesn't want to shoot the film in Afghanistan, and I cannot guarantee that if they come to shoot the film in Afghanistan, nothing will happen to them. I cannot guarantee. And then we ended up in shooting film somewhere else. Like, for example, for the orphanage or for Wolf and Sheep, for my previous work, we shot it we recreate Afghanistan in another country, in Tajikistan. And that's a small, tiny country in the north of Afghanistan, which is very, very similar in terms of nature. But in terms of buildings and all this, we had a huge production design set. You know, all these people from art department that they make Afghanistan. And the other challenge is the only Afghan crew is me and Anwar working. So we have to be more than director, more than assistant director, you know, like everything, doing costume, doing props, doing art department, because we are the only one who's speaking the language. We are the only one who knowing the culture, and we should be aware of what feedback we should get. We should accept what comments we should accept from the European crew, what is good for the creatively, what is good for a story, and what is harming for the story, because they don't know the culture and we know the culture. And I think shooting the films about Afghanistan in another location that is not Afghanistan by itself is a film, because I'm working with non-actors, and then I cast everyone who speak even one word from Afghanistan, and then we ship them all to another location that is Tajikistan, in the case of orphanage or orphanage. And our actors, they don't have even a national ID, so we have to take them national ID, passport, visa. Getting visa for Afghan citizens are very difficult. So, for example, the last time with the orphanage, the visa in black market for Tajikistan was $1,000 USD per person, and And I had almost like 87 people coming from Afghanistan. So it was really like there was a lot of moment. Like I didn't know if I am a director or if I'm a runner, because I was running around in Tajikistan. And then we had to, because we also shot 2 weeks in Europe, because we got some money from Europe. So we shot all the Bollywood in Europe, like Bollywood that they shot in Switzerland. So we shot in Germany and Denmark. But it was hell to get Schengen visa for characters, for a cast, because then we had to take them to third country, which was Pakistan. So in my pre-production that I used to work on, used to prepare before the shoot, I was using 5 weeks out of 6 weeks of my pre-production, traveling to Pakistan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Germany, Denmark, and dragging all these people around with me. So I think it was a lot of challenge, but it's a good challenge.
Yeah, and I almost feel like, when I ask the question, I'm like, almost feel like apologizing, saying I asked you for one challenge, because it's, so nuanced, right? I'm sure every day is so new. You have no idea what's going to come up, and then you're managing all of these things across these countries. And thank you so much, because this is one of my favorite parts of what Indie Beam brings to the community, the Q&A, because you really cannot see all this on the screen, right? We only get to see one. When you're sharing with us, it just gives us such a deeper perspective at what the process is like. And thank you for making this film.
We have a question from Ruby.
Just going what Supriya was saying, no, I really appreciate you like giving us your time right now, because this really makes the film so much more unique and so much more, I don't know, it's just so great to hear your stories. And it was one of the films that I really, really enjoyed while we're watching, like selecting. It was so unique. And like, of course, like those challenges and everything that you have gone through, it really came through the film. So congratulations on that. My question was about like, how was it when you were pitching the story? Like, I'm very curious, because it's such a unique film. It's such a unique idea. And I want to know what people were telling you as feedback when you were saying this was the kind of story you wanted to tell.
Well, I think the pitching was another thing. I think in some point I pitched another story and I made another film. I had to do a little bit cheating because I think it's very, because I think it's very difficult, because I'm trying to make films that they are carrying an identity of Afghan film, but I cannot really claim that they're Afghan film because we do not have any cinema. So maybe what I have in my mind, it's like an Afghan cinema in the next 50 years or something, but at the moment there is nothing that I can claim that my film is Afghan film, and also like it's a lot of talk and argue around this. And it's just difficult to pitch a project that is that it's connected to a country that already defined by so many other films with a completely cliche picture. And I think my job as a filmmaker is first to remove all those cliches and then present my work. Because, for example, it's just very difficult. I think even like when I'm participating in a lot of pitching or forum before shooting the film, the thing is like people wants to hear what they expect, and also and if they don't do that, then it's just like for example, I give you an example, maybe I'm not very clear. I give you an example. When I wanted to pitch the orphanage, the thing was in the pitch that I'm talking about Afghanistan and I'm talking about an orphanage. So I'm kind of talking about double cliche. And the picture from the orphanage is like children are starving and dying, and they are so miserable in the orphanage all around the world, but the orphanage that Anwar it was not like that. Anwar was very happy in the orphanage, and he was very thankful of the orphanage because he could end up being a fighter in the street during the wartime. But he ended up in this orphanage where he got food, he got shelter, he got education, more than important than everything. He got education, and he traveled to USSR and he he visited the world, he saw the world, and they had like the best education, the best stuff in the orphanage. So when I was trying to picture this orphanage, people were like, but you're talking about Soviet, you know, have you read the history about Soviet? Do you know what they did? And I was like, that's not the point, that's politics. What I'm saying is like, I'm talking about Anwar's childhood, because he looks at that period as one of the best period of his life. So we are not talking about politics, we are talking about the bright side of Soviet in Afghanistan, or a child who survived in Afghanistan. And it's just so difficult, like and especially, and also another thing is like, when you are talking about Afghanistan, that your focus is not on women's rights or on election or politics or opium or drugs, you know, people are like, hey, but this is not Afghanistan, this is like universal story. And they cannot really, you know, like I really got this feedback that yes, your story is very nice, but it's not Afghanistan, here is Afghanistan. And then also they expect me, because I'm a young woman from Afghanistan, and with all this Me Too campaign and all things, they expect more like maybe you can tell the story of Afghan women. And I'm like, but that's also cliche, because I think it's important that what I'm telling as a female point of view, not exactly just, you know, it doesn't matter if women or females are in front of my camera, it's important who's behind the camera. Because I think making a film about Afghanistan without talking about war in the direct way, that's a feminine point of view itself. So yeah, so I'm trying to, I think the pitching thing, it's a struggling moment of my work, but I'm working on it.
I just feel this has been a very exhilarating, session with you. It's been the best way to start the day. So I know you did not go looking for films, but I'm so glad films found you. And I almost feel like this session, this should be played before the movie, because I feel like this will set up the movie so well. And you've not given anything about the movie, so I don't know if we can do that. Maybe we can't, but I feel like this will set up the movie so well and just give us background. You've given us great background into how you made this movie. And Shweta and I were texting on chat that we really want to meet Anwar. I don't know if he's there with you, but if we want to meet him now.
He's with me, but actually he's stuck in Germany and I'm stuck in Denmark. So yeah.
But hopefully at some point we can do a Zoom session with both of you.
Yes.
But I had a quick question, which you've kind of answered, but maybe it's something else you want to add to it. But what were some of the biggest learning experiences that you had while making this movie or after making this movie? And how do you think they will help you in future filmmaking or your approach to life?
That's a very good question, actually, because I'm very involving, struggling with this, with the question that you just said. Because I realized that making small movies about Afghanistan doesn't help anyone, because I ended up with working on a film for 7-8 years, and then the film is too small, and even if the film is good, but it doesn't reach to cinema theaters, and no one gonna buy the film, no one gonna watch the film, and like, people like it when they watch it, but the question is like how we can give the film to them to watch. So I was, and I think with the orphanage, with my previous film, I was, it was okay because it was my first film and all this. And I think with the second film, I learned that I really need to dream bigger. I really need to step, like to stop making art house film about Afghanistan, but to play with genre. And also, I think it comes from Bollywood, because I watch all these Bollywood things, and I was like, actually, I like it. It's so entertaining. Maybe I question myself and my work that maybe I can make entertainment film, but still I'm talking about Afghanistan in a way that no one has seen or has talked before. So I think working in genre and can make more audience, but also can simplify subjects that I want to talk about Afghanistan, because I think I think Afghanistan by itself is a kind of cliche, you know, because when you say Afghanistan, Afghanistan is equal to war. And then your brain, when you say Afghanistan, then your brain search all the pictures that you already know from Afghanistan, that you got from media or from everywhere, you know. So I think I have a problem with the word Afghanistan, and I want to make, like, for example, this third movie that I'm working is a comedy. It's a romance comedy. And I thought maybe with making bigger film, I can reach more audience. I can go more to entertainment world, but it doesn't mean that I make like a stupid film from Afghanistan. I can still, it's still me who is making those films. So I think the challenge is like how I can talk, how I can attract more people to listen to me when I want to talk about Afghanistan. And I think the genre, the entertaining point, like all the using of grip and like bigger production and all this helps very much. And also I think it's very, this is also very cliche that people think, like the cinema market thing, that movies from Afghanistan or Tajikistan or like those small countries with no cinema industry should be always small and like art house, and why we cannot make a film with, I don't know, $20 million with Afghanistan, that, I don't know, it's a dance movie or it's a musical or it's a comedy or even it's a horror, you know, why it's always like it should be like only drama, war, animation, documentary and nothing more. So I think this is what I learned from Bollywood, in working in the Bollywood on the orphanage, that I want to go to the entertainment cinema.
Bigger. That's always
awesome.
a good plan. Thanks, Geetika. We have another question from Supriya. So let's have Supriya ask that.
I wanted to ask, after we've watched the movie, what is the one thing you would want the audience to take away?
I love this question.
What is I think it's, for me, it was the everyday life. Because for me, my statement was, even Afghanistan is a war country, but war is not everything. War is just a small part of everyday life. And I think in the orphanage, we see the life of children. We see the things, you know, we are there. I mean, this is something that I really like, that the children, they are so into their world that they do not really realize what is happening around them until the end, that they are completely like facing with the reality eye to eye. And that's the moment that they realize where they are standing. But before, it's just about everyday life of people. And I think on that time I was so, I kind of wanted to insist that Afghanistan is also like any other places, and people in Afghanistan, they're also like any other people in the world. So we also have everyday life, and we also have dream, and we also fall in love, and we also, I don't know, dislike things or likes things, you know, we are just normal human being. It's just like a different, okay, we live in a different geography, but the core, the DNA of all of us is the same, and we are all human and we have the same feelings. And yeah, and I think on that time I was really, I really wanted to insist that war is not everything about Afghanistan. So I was really trying to portray like small details, things from the life of these teenagers in Afghanistan. And also I think what I really wanted to show with the orphanage, it was like a side of Afghanistan that we see rarely, or I personally have not seen before, and it is something that it was very important for me, just to show something that has nothing to do with the other movies from Afghanistan. That was, I think, my head. Well, I mean, now I'm also critic on the orphanage because I made it like 2 years ago. Why I did that actually.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Supriya. I think we have time for one last question from Alka.
Yeah, I know you've spoken a little bit about your cast and, you know, herding them around, but your cast is amazing. I mean, you said they're all non-actors.
Yes.
Tell us something about how did you find all these people?
The guy, the boy Kodrat, and the girl in the dream, I casted them from my previous film. So it was the second work for them with the film. And then the rest of the children, I casted them from biggest high schools in Kabul, within 20,000 children that I casted within 1 year. And yeah, and then we also did a casting of the one who didn't speak, from Tajikistan. And also we had, because we also shot in Germany and in Denmark, we also cast people from Germany and Denmark, but made sure that they do not look European. In the very beginning, I just go to the first I ran after a lot of paperwork, because I have to visit the schools, and for visiting the schools I have to go to Minister of Education, Minister of Culture, the Afghan Film Institute, the Presidential Palace, like all over Kabul. And then I do like a lot of paperwork and all this, and which it took 1 year for me to do all this paperwork. And then when I had access to 25 high schools in Kabul, then it was very easy. I just went there with my mobile, and then I took picture, and I do not talk with them. I just, I have like a small whiteboard, and then I ask them to write their name and the name of the school and their age. So they just hold the whiteboard in front of them, and I took like a close up and then a long shot. And then from all the faces that I collected, I cut it down. Then I reached to, I don't know, 1,000. And then I cut it down, and then I reached to 100. And from 100, then I started to find them, and then to talk to families. And I always have like a second plan or third plan, because sometimes families, they are not agreed, and they think that I'm kidnapping their children, and you know, like this is stuff like they don't understand that I want to take them to Tajikistan. No one knows where Tajikistan is. They want me to, you know, to give them a guarantee that I'm not kidnapping their children. I have all kind of dramas, because I'm meeting like different families and stuff, and it's really a film by itself, like how we convince the families and how we talk to them and how we make the agreement and all this. And then in the later stage, we apply for national ID, for passport, for visa, and yeah, and then actually the children, they meet each other the first time when they took the plane from Kabul to Tajikistan. And then they spend all together in this like a cabin. It was like this small cabin in the location, inside the location. So they sleep together in one big place. And then yeah, and then they had like 4 days before we start the shooting. And I think during the shooting they made friendship, and then actually the ones that they supposed to be friends, they hate each other. like the one, like for example Kodad and Hasib in Yedusti song, they hate each other. And I was like, oh, how I should remake that song. It's about friendship.
Wow.
Well, they're truly good actors then.
Yes.
Thanks, Alka. Thanks. My God, listening to your story, SHAHRBANOO, I said Alka's question was the last, but I have one small request and a question. What was the easiest part of filmmaking? You have gone through so many challenges through it that it's amazing. I mean, I'm almost feeling a sigh of relief that the film was complete and it's out. I can't even imagine what, you know, the entire journey has been for you. And clearly you are passionate about film, because now you want to dream bigger and better and larger, right? So, so I just want you to let me know one thing that was easiest for the project, and then we'll hand it over to Shweta to wrap up the session.
That was working with the children on set. And that was very easy. Because and then many of the shots, many of the scenes that you see in the film, they're actually shot only in one take. So
Wow.
we took one take. Yeah, we took only one take, but very long take. Sometimes it depends from one scene to another. Sometimes we shoot it like in 10 minutes, but sometimes we shoot for 45 minutes. So the camera was going on, like rolling, and then I was talking to them during the shoot. I was just talking to them and giving them instruction and all this. And yeah, and I think that was I think this is very interesting because in a lot of Q&A, people asking me questions like, how did you work with children and was it difficult? And they had no idea that that was actually the most easiest thing of the filmmaking. And my editor had a lot of trouble while editing to cut out my voice because I was talking constantly during the shoot. But yeah, working with the children, that was the easiest.
Absolutely. SHAHRBANOO, I just want to tell you, please, on behalf of Indie Meme, please let Anwar know that we are all so inspired by his story. Really wish he could have joined us and we could have had a small chat with him, but please just do let him know that we are really, really inspired by his story. I cannot wait to see your third film. So I will be in touch with you on behalf of Indie Meme so that we can screen your third film as well. Thank you so much for joining us from Denmark. And I hope that this Q&A session will really help our audience to get a different perspective on the film.
I hope so. Thank you very much.